How old are you right now? Go ahead, take a second. Think about it. Maybe you're still feeling pretty solid, still got that energy. You're watching what goes on your plate. You're getting your steps in, maybe even hitting the gym a few times a week. And somewhere in the back of your mind, you got this quiet little belief, that's not going to be me. I'm doing everything right. I'm not going to end up like that. I hear you. I really do. But listen, what I'm about to share with you today, this is not the kind of thing people talk about at dinner tables. This is the stuff people only figure out after it's already happening to them. And by then, a lot of damage has already been done. There is a window in life, a specific stretch of years that hits harder than anything most people ever expect. It doesn't show up right when you retire. It doesn't announce itself. It just arrives quietly, somewhere between the ages of 70 and 75. And in those 5 years, just 5 years, something shifts in a way that catches even the strongest, most disciplined people completely off guard. Now here's what really gets me. The ones who get hit the hardest are not the people who ignored their health their whole life. It's the ones who did everything right, the ones who cared, the ones who showed up. That's what makes this so cruel. You see someone who's been walking 5 miles a day for 20 years, and then one morning that same walk feels like climbing a mountain in the middle of winter. You see a man who built a career, raised a family, led people, and then retirement hits, and suddenly he doesn't know where he fits anymore, and the world just kind of keeps moving without him. There's a pattern behind all of this, a pattern that millions of people have walked straight into without ever seeing it coming. I've started calling it the cliff at 75. And today I want to sit here with you and actually break it down, not in some polished, rehearsed kind of way, just honestly, the way I wish someone had sat down with me and laid it all out plain. We're going to go through 5 of the real reasons why this stretch of life hits the way it does, and I'm going to give you something concrete you can actually start doing. Not 20 things, not a whole program, just something real, something you can start today. If you stay with me through this whole thing, I promise 10 years from now, 20 years from now, you might look back at this moment and think, yeah, that one mattered. All right, let's get into it. The first thing, and this one nobody wants to hear, is what the medical world calls accelerated physical frailty. Now, frailty is one of those words that sounds clinical and distant until it isn't. Let me break it down simple. Frailty is that dangerous in-between zone. You're not sick, but you're not quite okay either. You're not in a hospital bed, but you're not living the way you used to. It's the gray area that sneaks up on you between being fully independent and needing someone else to step in. And after 70, the human body starts losing muscle mass at a rate that most people genuinely cannot believe until they experience it themselves. We're talking about something called sarcopenia. That's the gradual age-related loss of muscle tissue and strength that happens naturally as we get older. It's real, it's documented, and it accelerates hard in your early 70s if you don't actively fight back against it. I want to tell you about a man. I'll call him Richard. Richard spent his career as a top sales executive, shaking hands, closing deals, flying city to city. Even after he retired, the man was disciplined, 10,000 steps a day, rain or shine. He'd say things like, "I'm not like other guys my age," and he meant it. He truly believed it. Then one morning, he was 73, he reached into the kitchen cabinet, grabbed a jar of jam, and he couldn't open it. His hand just wouldn't cooperate. There was this sharp sting running through his wrist, and his fingers just wouldn't grip the way they were supposed to. And he stood there in his own kitchen, in his own house, and had to turn to his wife and say, "Can you get this for me?" He told me later that moment broke something in him that he didn't even know could break. And here's what people miss. It wasn't really about the jar. It wasn't about grip strength. What that moment did, psychologically, was start a chain reaction inside his head. The second he thought, "My body is failing me," he started hesitating. He started going out less. And when you stop moving, your legs get weaker. When your legs get weaker, the fear of falling goes up. And when the fear of falling goes up, you move even less. It's a cycle, and once you're in it, getting out is hard. The fix isn't expensive. You don't need some fancy supplement or a gym membership. I want you to try something right now or tonight if you're sitting in a chair. Put a small towel on the floor in front of you, and using just your toes, try to scrunch it toward you. Grab it with your toes and pull. That's it. 30 seconds. That movement, that little towel grab, it sounds almost too simple to matter. But what it actually does is restore something called proprioception, your body's natural sense of where it is in space, its ability to feel the ground beneath it. And when that sense is strong, your fear of falling drops, your confidence goes back up. And confidence, believe it or not, is what keeps older adults moving, and moving is what keeps them alive in the fullest sense of that word. That feeling of pressing your feet into the ground and knowing your body still listens to you, that's the first weapon you've got against that cliff.
Now the second thing, and this one is brutal in a quiet way, it's what I call social death. That phrase might sound dramatic, but I've seen it happen, and there's no gentler way to say it. During your working years, you had something. You had a role. You had a title. You had people who needed you to show up. Whether you were a manager, a teacher, a foreman, a business owner, you were somebody in a very practical, everyday sense. People called you. People waited on your answer. Your opinion mattered at the table. And then retirement hits, and that business card you used to hand out with quiet pride, all of a sudden it feels like a relic from somebody else's life. You wake up on a Tuesday morning with nowhere you need to be, no emails in the inbox that require your attention, no calls coming in, no one waiting on you. That loss of role, psychologists actually call it role exit theory. It's the psychological disruption that happens when the identity you built your entire adult life around just disappears overnight. And for a lot of men in particular, it hits like a freight train, because so much of their sense of self was tied up in what they did, not just who they were. And then the loneliness sets in. Not the kind of loneliness where you're just bored on a Saturday night, the chronic kind, the kind that sits on your chest in the morning. And research coming out of places like Harvard Medical School has shown something genuinely alarming. Chronic loneliness, the persistent, ongoing kind, does measurable damage to the human body. Some studies compare its health effects to smoking somewhere around 15 cigarettes a day. Not being alone for a weekend, the long-term, day-after-day kind. Now, a lot of people try to fight mental decline with brain puzzles, crosswords, Sudoku, those apps on their phone. And look, there's some value there, but what the research actually shows is that nothing activates the human brain quite like a real live conversation with another real live person. The back and forth, the reading of expressions, the spontaneity of it. Something as casual as, "Man, it's gorgeous out today," or "Hey, I like that jacket." That simple exchange fires up multiple regions of the brain all at once in a way that no puzzle app can replicate.
And laughing with someone, actually laughing, not just smiling at your TV, 5 minutes of that can do more for your cognitive health than an hour of solo mental exercises. So here's what I want you to hear. You don't need a title anymore. You don't need a role. What you need is a place where you show up as a human being, just a person who still has something to give. It doesn't matter if it's a volunteer program in a small town in Ohio or a hobby group in California. What matters is that there's somewhere you belong that isn't just your living room. That's the second thing standing between you and that cliff, and honestly, it might be the one that matters most. The third thing is something that happens slowly, almost invisibly, and then one day you look up and feel it all at once. It's the quiet disappearance of your friendships. When you're in your 70s, goodbyes start coming more often. A friend you were out golfing with down in Florida last month ends up in the hospital. Someone you had dinner with every couple of weeks passes away with almost no warning. And that casual "see you next time" that always felt like just a thing you said, it starts carrying weight, because sometimes next time doesn't come. This is one of the deepest reasons why the early 70s are so emotionally exhausting. It's not just the physical stuff, it's the grief, the quiet accumulating grief of watching your circle shrink. And as it shrinks, your world starts to feel smaller, more enclosed, more silent. But here's what I've come to believe, and this has reached more people than I ever expected. The answer isn't to rush out and try to build new deep friendships from scratch. That honestly feels like a mountain at this stage of life, and expecting yourself to climb it is setting yourself up to feel even more alone when it's harder than you thought. What you actually need is something lighter, looser, what researchers sometimes call weak ties. And don't let that phrase fool you, because in this context, weak ties are nothing but weak. You become a regular at the coffee shop around the corner. The person behind the counter knows your order. You nod at the same guy who walks his dog through the park every morning. You exchange a few words with the cashier at your grocery store. None of these are deep friendships. None of them require emotional investment or vulnerability or history. But they do something powerful. They create a quiet sense that you exist in the world, that someone notices you're there, that you belong beyond your own four walls. That quiet feeling of being seen, even by someone who barely knows your name, it works like medicine on the anxiety that so many people carry through their 70s without ever really talking about it. If what we're going through here is landing for you, if you're sitting there nodding, I want you to drop a comment below. Just tell me how old you are and where you're watching from. Maybe share something that's been on your mind. Because your words don't just mean something to me, they might mean everything to someone else out there who stumbled onto this video and feels completely alone right now. And if you haven't subscribed yet, take a second and do that now. Hit the notification bell too, because this kind of conversation, I want to keep having it with you. Okay, let's keep going.
The fourth thing is one that a lot of people actively avoid thinking about until they're standing right in the middle of it. And that's what happens when caring for a partner becomes part of your daily life. Between 70 and 75, it's not just your own health that shifts. For many people, this is exactly when their spouse, their partner of decades, starts needing real, consistent care. And the person who steps up to provide that care is almost always the other spouse, quietly, without asking for help, without admitting how heavy it's getting. There's a word for this, elder caregiving, and the people who take it on with the most devotion are often the ones who suffer the most quietly, because they've told themselves a story. This is what love looks like. I handle it myself.
I don't complain. I don't burden anyone else. And I understand that instinct. I really do. It comes from a real place of love and loyalty and a kind of old-school sense of duty that I actually respect. But I have to say this plainly. That belief, as honorable as it sounds, can lead both of you somewhere much darker than where you started. Think about a man I'll call Daniel. He was caring for his wife through the winter up in Chicago. One night he got up to check on her in the bathroom, slipped on the cold tile floor and hurt his back badly enough that he couldn't properly care for her for weeks. And now you've got two people in crisis instead of one. That kind of breaking point doesn't come with a warning. It just arrives. So here's the most practical thing I can tell you. Right now, right after you finish this, pick up your phone and type these 4 words into your search bar. Area Agency on Aging. These organizations exist all across the United States. They are specifically built to support older adults and the families around them. They offer consultation, resources, community connections, and you don't have to be in a full-blown crisis to reach out to them. All you have to say is, "I've been feeling a little overwhelmed lately. I'm not sure what's available to us." That's enough to start. Asking for help is not a betrayal of your spouse. It is not a sign that you love them less. Knowing how to use the support that exists around you, that is what wisdom actually looks like at this stage of life. That is one of the most loving things you can do. And the 5th thing, and I know this one might catch a few people off guard, is what I'd call digital isolation. Now, I'm not going to lecture you about technology, but I do want to be real with you. We live in a world now where almost everything runs through the internet and through smartphones. Government services, health alerts, emergency notifications, medical appointments, communication with your family. It's all there. And if you're on the outside of that, if your resistance to the technology keeps growing, you are quietly cutting yourself off from the very systems that were built to keep you safe and connected. When a wildfire moves fast in California or a flood comes through a Gulf Coast town, the alerts go to phones. When your doctor's office needs to reach you quickly, it goes through an app. When your grandkids want to share something with you, it goes through a screen. I'm not saying you need to become some kind of tech expert. You really don't. There are just 2 things I want you to get comfortable with. Just 2. The first is sending a photo through a messaging app. That's it. Take a picture of the flower blooming in your backyard this morning. Open up your messages, send it to your daughter. 3 steps. The second is using voice input instead of typing. Just hold the little microphone button and say what you want to say. I'm thinking about you today. Done. You don't have to type a single letter. Those 2 things, just those 2, can pull you out of a kind of isolation that most people don't even realize they've drifted into. Because a smartphone isn't just a device for entertainment. It's the wire that connects you to your people. And in certain moments, real emergency moments, it becomes something that can genuinely protect your life. Okay, so we've walked through all 5. Accelerated physical frailty, the loss of your social role, the slow fading of friendships, the weight of caregiving without support, and the slow drift into digital isolation. None of this is light stuff, I know that, and if some of it hit close, that's exactly what it was supposed to do, not to scare you, but to make you feel seen. Because here's what I want you to walk away with. Not a 20-step program, just 3 things. Simple, doable, starting today. Every single day, spend 30 seconds doing that toe exercise. Scrunch the towel. Press your feet into the ground. Do it while you watch the morning news. Do it before bed. It takes less time than checking your email, and over weeks and months, it builds something in your body that directly protects your independence. Second, practice asking for help. I know that's one's hard, especially for people from a generation that was taught self-reliance above everything else. But lean on someone this week, a neighbor, a professional, even just a young person nearby. Share a small concern out loud. Let someone in just a little. That act alone, that single small act, starts dismantling the walls that isolation builds around you. And third, go somewhere new at least once a week. A coffee shop you've never walked into, a park you've driven past 100 times but never stopped at, a bookstore in a part of town you don't usually go to. New places do something to the brain that routine simply cannot. They create new sensory input, new neural connections, a little jolt of aliveness that your mind genuinely needs. The years between 70 and 75, they're real. The cliff is real, but so is the other side of it. There are people on the far side of 75 who will tell you with absolutely no hesitation that they're living better now than they ever expected. Not because life got easier, but because they let go of some old ideas about what strength was supposed to look like. They learned how to ask for help without shame. They found their people, not in big, dramatic ways, but in small, steady, quiet ones. You don't have to do this alone, and you don't have to figure it all out tonight. But maybe just one thing, one small shift, that's where it starts. If something in here reminded you of your own life or someone you love, please leave a comment. Tell me where you're watching from. Tell me what hit home, because you showing up in that comment section isn't just nice for me. It might be the thing that makes someone else feel less alone today. And if this meant something to you, share it, subscribe, hit that bell, because the conversations we're having on this channel, they're going to keep going, and I don't want you to miss what's coming next. Take care of yourself. Take care of the people around you. And remember, getting older isn't the end of something. For a lot of people, it turns out to be the beginning of the truest version of themselves. I'll see you in the next one.